be short. And can I endorse those comments by Nick? I understand actually there's some t-shirts outside that say you can lead a politician to water but you can't make him think. Can I also acknowledge my deputy Nick Williams, which is just overlooked by John Daly, the other when he was introducing people, but Mitch is also here as well as various other politicians. This is an important issue, it matters, because we all care about water and water in this state. The problem is that this area has been managed in a fundamentally flawed way. The whole process has been fundamentally flawed from its inception in terms of the Mount Lofty Ranges and Fleurieu Peninsula. And I say this on the basis that I was attending the very first meeting held when they first decided, and this was back in the days when John Hill was the Environment Minister for this government, and I attended a meeting at the Mount Barker Golf Club, this was like 2003 or 2004, the very first meeting, and 250 people turned up, 100 more than they anticipated. And what became obvious at that meeting was that they broke us into groups. Their main concern was that it would be an orderly meeting, not that they actually listened. It was called a consultation, but it wasn't a consultation because what it was the public servants had been sent out to tell us what they'd already decided to do. And so what happened was we were broken up into groups, and I was in a group of 16 people, and it didn't matter that 15 of the 16 people in that group said, show us the evidence upon which you base your assertion, and here's the first fundamental flaw. They have an assertion, they simply state that our water resources are under stress and under threat. Well, we know that we live in the driest state and the driest inhabited continent, and that, as I said, water is important to all of us. But the farmers there, who were third and fourth and fifth generation farmers, were saying, but we can tell you that the water table's higher and that we're using less water than we were 30 years ago. But didn't matter what was said, what was written up on the board of the reporting back was what the department's officers had already decided was going to be written on the wall. And I actually have still my files of the letters I then wrote to John Hill as the then minister saying, your problem is you've got a flawed process. So if that's the first problem, that you've got this assertion that we're under threat, that there's a stress on the situation, but there's no evidence of it. They're also making no distinction between rainwater and surface water and underground water, and they say that you can't do that. Well, I think you can. There is a difference between the rain that falls from the heavens above and what we're dealing with as underground water. But the third... My view is that this is being ideologically driven by a department that does not consult. It's a department that has decided what the decision's going to be, and it doesn't matter what we say. This and every other meeting simply gives them the ability to tick the box to say, yes, we consulted the community, because we've all turned up, so here we are. They also, of course, have no competence in farming, so they don't understand that if you fence off all your water courses, that's going to lead to certain problems. The farmers understand it. Farmers actually care about the environment. They want to pass their farms on in a sustainable way to their next generation. They all understand that. They also, these departmental officers, have absolutely no common sense. And I'll give you one example, and that is... a wholesale nursery in Mylor, okay? They don't mind so much the idea of actually putting a meter on to measure the water that they take out of the bore. Once it's taken out of the bore, they pump it up to their top dam and it's gravity fed down to the bottom dam, through their nursery, back into the bottom dam, pump it up to the top. And they can go all summer without taking any more water out, but the department wants a meter on the bore and the top dam and the bottom dam so that they can consistently measure everything that's going on. Furthermore, they are inept if not incompetent, and I've got the FOI documents to show you what happened down on the main road at Gundy down towards the Victor Harbour Road, where a particular farmer had an allocation that was going to be something like 2.4 hectares of pasture, except that, oops, they made a mistake with the decimal point and he got 24 hectares, and before anyone did anything about it in the department, or figured out that they could even do anything in the department, of course he sold it on. So never mind about that. And indeed I was told last week by someone who came to see me about this issue that there's a subsidiary of an American investment company that has bought $30 million worth of water rights just as an investment. Therein lies where our problems are. So it doesn't surprise me that so many people have turned up tonight. This is an issue of concern to us because I take the view that if the government can measure it, they'll tax it. And make no mistake, Minister Gail Gogo said on Bino, anything used for a commercial use will be taxed. So although there's an exemption for stock and domestic, I know most of you don't name your animals, but I'd like to see the hobby farmer who actually doesn't class his few cattle or sheep or whatever he uses to mow the lawn as stock. And I think that this is the thin end of the wedge, because once they've actually instituted this system, what they will then do is bring in a system to say, well, now it's not fair that the people with the rainwater tanks in town don't have to have that measured because, and that's why, Minister, I think there's this degree of fear. So...
the Sheriff of Nottingham's got nothing on this one.
Look, as Nick said, I think that the Minister to be congratulated for at least having the good sense to come and talk to people and see how much this matters. This is not a bunch of rednecks in the community. This is the entire community. Generational farmers, people from the Downs, people who realise that agriculture is still vitally important in this state, that farmers care about the water, farmers do care about the environment, farmers actually know about farming and how best to manage the resource, but the Department of Environment and Development do not know how to do it, and forevermore I think we need to fight as hard as we can to stop this happening, simply because this department has been bulldozing this through for several years now. It is time to take a stand and say enough.
Thank you, Isobel. And now I have the mic, and I want to wander around. Sally, who's upstairs, if you've got a question upstairs, the idea is that I'll go on the floor, we'll have a chance to ask questions of the Minister, and we do have from the department, we've got Hugo Hopton, who's the Regional Manager. Hugo, what's your... so Hugo is from the Regional Manager of the Murray-Darling Basin NRM. Also Kim Good, the Regional Manager for the Adelaide Mount Lofty Hills NRM, and Martin Stokes, who's the Manager of the Licensing Department of Water. So they're there to answer questions on behalf of the Minister for any technical issues. So I'm going to come down to the floor now, and Connie's about to